You're a landscape architect. Pros, you're an international student who won the highly competitive H-1B visa, allowing you to work at one of the most respected landscape architecture firms in the country.
Cons, they discreetly leverage the vulnerability of your visa status to pay you less than your coworkers, and you work overtime and weekends without compensation, like an indentured servant.
You're a landscape architect. Pros, you prepared a beautiful, thoughtful presentation for a riverwalk restoration project and are genuinely excited to share it.
Cons, the developer, architect, civil engineer, structural engineer, horticulturalist, arborist, and contractor are all eagerly awaiting for your presentation. The client introduces you to the team as the landscaper.
You're listening to the Landscape Architecture Podcast. Pros, you get to meet really cool guests like me.
Cons, Michael Tolderon didn't use his imposter syndrome to sharpen his articulation or interview skills, so you're stuck with the mediocre host.
Yes, I'm Kaitlin Hannig. I'm a real estate agent based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and I have recently gained some social media notoriety because I'm mean to people.
My name is Michael Tolderon, and I am the host of the Landscape Architecture Podcast. And of course, today's episode is with Kaitlin, and the reason why she's on here is because her content to me is really refreshing, and I think that architects, landscape architects, and interior designers can all start thinking about different ways of how we present ourselves online. And this is one methodology. I don't know if it's the exact one for us, but we could definitely start talking about what it means to understand the internet. You know that phrase, like the internet always wins?
Yeah.
So, okay, so first let's backtrack, and how did this even start?
Well, I was born in a hospital. The weather was nice. No, I'm just kidding. So I was making real estate content, and you know, when you get started in real estate, a lot of people come from this background of being employees, right? But then you're in this situation where, no, you're your own boss now, but it's hard for a lot of people to shake the employee mindset. So there's tons of information for real estate agents of like, this is how to real estate, boom, 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 boom. And so when you don't have your bearings, that's what you start with. And so I was making the real estate content that people in the industry say this is how you should be making content. And I was not making any progress with it. I mean, I do think that social media works even if you're not prolific at it, because I did have a couple clients that I connected with, even when I feel like my content wasn't dialed in. But, you know, I had kind of a come to Jesus moment where I realized like my content is boring me to tears. I don't like it. It's, you know, and so I spent a lot of time going through non-industry content and figuring out what content am I drawn to? Why am I stopping? Why am I watching this one all the way through? What is it about it? And so I kind of tried to reverse engineer and see the through line with all of these things. And yeah, and so I settled on an idea that, you know, has ultimately gained me a lot of followers, which is I do what I call asshole home tours. And I go through a home and I insult the potential buyer, the viewer. I just poke at a little bit of existential dread. I make fun of your relationship with your parents a little bit. And, you know, it's working. It's fun.
To me, it's really refreshing because we all understand anyway. We all know like what we're kind of hiding from, and then somebody just kind of calling it out a little bit. And I find it really compelling. I imagine that when you first started, there probably was a leap of faith, right? That's a lot of courage to do that. Or were you just, you knew it was something?
Well, I didn't know it was something. I knew it was something that I thought was funny. So I felt like there was some merit to it. But also at the time I had 1,400 followers, so I didn't have stakes.
Right.
You know, there wasn't anything to lose. Yeah. So it wasn't a, you know, leap of faith because it just didn't feel like I had anything to really sacrifice by doing it, and there was only upside potentially.
And has this like traction gained sales and closure? Yes. Right?
Yes.
That's pretty exciting. Big smile. I like it.
It is. Well, I mean, because one thing that I love about it is that social media can switch around the dynamic of the traditional real estate way to gain clients is hunter and prey, right? And so then social media turns that on its head where I'm just here. It's maybe more agricultural. I'm just a vegetable in your garden and you can come pluck me when you're ready. And I'm not chasing you down with a bow and arrow to get your hide. It's totally different, and the power is a lot more with the client. And I like that a lot more. And I think in 2025, people don't want to be hunted. You inherently distrust the hunter because you know that you're the prey. And so, when the dynamic is flipped around using social media, I just think it's a much better working relationship, and there's a lot more inherent trust. Obviously visibility is half the battle in anything like this. Building a personal brand is the most powerful thing you can do. So having people just know that I exist is a very valuable thing in real estate, and I'm sure it's adjacent industries. Okay, so yeah, I think whatever pitfalls there are definitely are outweighed by the pros. I do think one of the pitfalls is that people see my follower count, which on Instagram I have, 95,000 maybe. And so some people will think that I'm out of reach, right? So I do think that sometimes clients, or potential clients I should say, won't reach out to me because they just assume that I'm too busy to help them. So I don't love that idea of people thinking, putting me on a pedestal somehow and thinking that.
Sure. And you're like, this is my whole hustle.
Yeah, like this is the whole point. Yeah, please call me. Like, let's go look at some houses.
I even had some apprehension. I know I'm not in the market to buy, so my reach out was a little bit different. Yeah. But I was like,
Yes, you assume that like.
I assume maybe not. Yeah. So that is interesting. So I want to tell you a story about how my mom got into real estate. Okay. So my mom was in an abusive relationship with my father, and when it was time to leave that, they were going to sell the house. My mom is from Serbia, and she spoke barely any English. And when the real estate agent came to appraise the house with the appraiser, she asked, how much money are you making selling the house? And the real estate agent told her commission. Yeah. And my mom immediately was like, this is what I'm going to do now. I'm a farmer from Serbia. I don't have any other thing to do. That's a lot of money, and I could do this. So she took her real estate license test with the Serbian dictionary.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's hard enough already. I took the test and I failed. And and she did it with the Serbian translating as she did it. She passed.
It's crazy.
Became a successful real estate agent, met her husband, my stepfather. They opened up a Century 21. They became brokers. Yeah. And they were like pretty successful. And like I love that story about that opportunity that she was able to do and be on her own and make it. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that because I'm really proud of my mom.
Well, there's kind of a joke in real estate that like in order to become an agent, you have to go through a divorce. And I've been through a divorce, So, because it is, I like real estate because it is kind of a democratic industry where people in the industry complain that the barrier to entry is too low. And I don't agree. Well, I agree that the barrier to entry is low. You can take a test and become an agent. But I think that people that are really successful in real estate are successful because they do well. And so if you're worried about the barrier to entry being low, that means that you're threatened by someone who doesn't have the skills, that they're new in the industry. And so if you're really successful in real estate, you wouldn't be worried about that barrier to entry.
Well, the market filters you out.
Yeah.
It is a hustle.
It is. Yeah, it's not for the weak.
It is not. I think people can, like, when interest rates are low and things are really good, they could see appealing and, I'll make all this money. No, you got to hustle and you got to put it out there. And I gladly pay, like, the fees for a real estate agent, because, like, I see what they do. Like, we bought this property, we used a real estate agent. We just sold a condo in Las Vegas, and this lady worked her butt off because it's high interest rates right now, and it wasn't the best of condos.
Yeah, actually, the market's really sluggish right now.
Yeah.
Kind of overall, yeah.
Sure, and I saw the work that I already knew what she was going to do, but she put in work. Yeah. And it's like, get yours. Like...
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we could talk about the commission, because, like, obviously that's something that is pretty controversial. Is like, do our real estate agents worth the money? Because especially as technology improves, because real estate agents used to literally be the ones that had access to the listings, and now anyone can see the listings. Yeah. And you'd have to print things out on a piece of paper, and that's just not the way the industry is anymore. And so you do have to have value in other ways. And I don't feel personally threatened if someone's like, oh, I don't want to hire a real estate agent. I'm like, great.
Right.
There's a bunch of other people that will. So I feel like it's a red flag. If you see a real estate agent that gets really butthurt and personally offended if someone's like, I'm not going to hire a real estate agent.
Yeah.
That they're feeling insecure. Maybe don't hire them.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
It is a shakeup, and eventually it'll all kind of sort itself out. But right now it feels like a really big transitional period of, like, where are we doing? Yeah. What's my value? What's my perceived value?
Yeah.
I think most people, landscape architects work a lot with developers, architects, and so we're adjacent to the industry of properties being sold, and nobody's shy about telling us, especially when you're designing a spec home or speculation home, right? That's built just to sell. Like, nobody's really shy of telling us what amenities that they want, right? And what they think is going to sell. And so a lot of times, we'll hear direct feedback, and they'll hire a real estate consultant on and say, okay, these are the amenities that we want. So for us, I think we get it, we understand, but maybe first-time home buyers, it might be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Like, I do think that the real estate industry is going to shift, and I don't know what AI will do, but I firmly believe that if you are working hard at your job and you are serving clients, then you're going to have a path through whatever shifts happen. It'll
do something, we just don't know.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah.
And I think all of our industries are, I know for landscape architecture, it's shaking up a lot of things. I'm an early adopter of AI, so I've used it to actually make me quite a bit of money. But at the same time, there's ethical questions that I have while I'm doing it. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know if I am contributing to the downfall of society. And every time, sometimes in ChatGPT, I'm like, are we still good? Like, do you remember how nice I am when I say please and thank you for my request? Like, remember that when you take over. Yeah. And it goes, I will remember that when I take over the world. Ha ha ha. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. So, all right. So your humor is what? I think you mentioned it briefly in the beginning, but let's expand a little bit.
It's kind of dark. I think that it's kind of, I always say mean, but it's not actually mean, because I'm not punching down. And I think it's just more of a straightforward, okay, some people will describe me in all these ways in my comments. And someone described me as a nihilistic optimist.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That should be your moniker. That's pretty good. A nihilistic optimist. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's this line of, like, does any of this matter? And instead of, like, being dragged down by, like, no, none of this matters, it's kind of fun to be like, oh, that's actually freeing. Maybe none of this matters. You know?
Well, that's very like Taoism too, right?
Yeah.
It's like very like you laugh at the world in a way. But it's interesting because you can't live in that space. Like you could entertain those ideas, but you can't move through the world. Like driving, you can't be like, none of this matters because you're going to crash into a car, right? Yeah. So like you have to balance going in and out of like caring and not caring and being able to laugh at things that deserve being laughed at, right? Yeah, well, and I like, so I mean, that comes across in my content, but that really is who I am too. I mean, because, okay, in my content, so I don't know if people always understand that I'm kind of playing a caricature of myself. Like an exaggerated? Yeah, so it's not me. But it's more like zoomed in on one aspect of my personality. I'm gonna hear my mouth. Wait, you can't have more than one aspect of your personality. I am. I'm complex. This got at least 3 layers of cake here. I'm sorry. This is the point that I was getting to. But it very much is who I am, especially in the parts where like I just don't let external things impact me. So like I just don't care. So there's this one video that I made. It's not one of my asshole home tours. It's just I have this other format where I kind of just stand in the corner of my bathroom with a mirror lit, and it's all very like rough in terms of production value. But that's kind of there's a charm to it. Yeah. But I'm talking about like I just don't care if people don't like me. I do not care if you don't like me because there are enough people in the world that will like me that I don't care. I'm not expecting every single person that comes in contact with my stuff. I don't want them to like me. I just need the right people to like me. And that's very true to who I am. This message is not for boomers. So if you're a boomer, just continue swiping. Millennials, Gen Zers, I am here right now to tell you, you do not have to listen to boomers when they spout off about how you should be buying real estate and what worked for them. Boomers love coming in with their Dave Ramsey energy, telling us that they had 25% interest and how could we imagine it being worse. Sure, their interest rates were higher, but their housing affordability wasn't skyrocketing like ours has. Their incomes kept up with inflation. You could raise a family on a single income. I've gotten riled up. They don't live in the same economic reality that we do. One of the reasons why they think it's okay to still continue talking about it is because it's still working for them. Because any property they bought in 1980 whatever has quintupled in value, and so they're just sitting on a bucket load of equity so they can roll that over into whatever they want. So they're sitting there telling us stop going on vacations, to stop eating out, and they are missing the point that the reason we're still going on vacations, the reason we're eating out is because we aren't sure that home ownership is even attainable. So why would we completely sacrifice our now for this thing that might not even happen for us? Instead of having conversations with boomers where they're going to tell you how they did it in their day and that you should stop taking vacations, maybe have a conversation with me where we can go over your goals and how you envision your life and see if home ownership is even right for you. Thank you. Feeling spicy at my core, which I think is one of the reasons why I have been able to be successful on social media, because that's my mindset. Because so many people get held back on what they post on social media because they're thinking, my mom's gonna see this, or my aunt's gonna see this, or like my neighbor. All these people that aren't your potential client, right? You're acting out of fear, you're holding back because you think someone who actually you're not trying to impress might see it. And so I think that's a huge waste of like time and, maybe talent if you are not creating the things you are capable of creating because you're so worried about who might see it, like this fear of being seen. Yeah, I commend you for that, because only now in my life am I starting to flirt with the idea of just doing me. Yeah. And I have been, and I do feel like I'm flourishing because of that. Yeah. But again, like I'm 50 and I'm just now starting to get to that point, right? And with social media, like there is also, most people can't avoid when you're doing something like experimental or like in a different way, there's got to be a little bit of a cringe phase. Yeah. Right? And so you have to be able to endure that. Yes. And then on the other side of that is like, okay, I found my style, I found my voice. And like, even though like I mentioned that your character on Instagram is like an exaggerated caricature. You can't do what you're doing without that being a part of you.
Yes.
Like that would be so difficult. And it would read, I think humans have like these really good like micro tells that we could see if you're kind of faking it.
Yeah, and I was confused at first because when my content started gaining traction, I got so many comments about like, you're so authentic, and that confused me at first because I had what I believe now is kind of the generally accepted idea of what authenticity is, and I think there's some flaws with it because I was thinking, authenticity means that I am being so honest about who I am, or I'm getting into the nitty gritty of like my personal life, and that's not true because authenticity isn't actually this just like open door honesty. Honesty can be a part of it, but the reason that people I think see me as authentic is because I'm actually talking about them, and so that familiarity to them, they see, this is real because she can see me. And so I'm not talking about myself at all, really. And people will say, you're so authentic. And so I really think that one of the biggest strengths of my content is that I'm not talking about myself. I am reflecting back to people what they think about themselves, and then they see the realness in that. And so I think that people can take that concept, and obviously like it would look totally different when you do it than when I do it, but it can just be the tiniest tweak of like, I'm a landscape architect and here's a day in my life. If you frame it differently and you could say like, that this is why the POV videos get like so much traction, is because it's turned around and it's talking about the other person. So taking that one idea of like, this is what it's like a day in my life, and turning around to being like, if you were a landscape architect, this is what you experience in a day.
Interesting.
And it's just, it's like this minute little shift, but it turns the conversation from talking about you to talking about your viewer, and it's easier for people to connect with that.
So I've also done like some reverse engineering. I'm still trying to find my voice. Mm-hmm. I own a couple different businesses. And so right now I'm trying to make a focus on how do I want my social media for each one of those businesses. And each one is going to have a different voice. And, there's certain things that just work in social media. One of them is humor, which we already know, right? That one just works.
And that one's hard because it's not something that you can just, you can learn about how to be funnier, but unless you're already comfortable with that kind of thing, it's not something that I would say like everybody needs to use this.
Right. That's why there's like different like lanes, right? So there's that one. And then there's people really love like breakdowns of how things work. Yeah. Like there's this channel called The Lock Picking Lawyer, and all he does is pick locks and explains how he does it. I have no intention of picking a lock.
Right.
And he has millions and millions of views because it's so interesting. Like, I'm not a thief. Like, I don't want to be a locksmith.
I mean,
right? Well, maybe we don't know.
Keep the door open.
Yeah, keep the door open.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a theory that people don't connect with beauty, which everybody gets mad at me when I say that because they're like, no, humans love beautiful things, and I think that's true. Humans do love beautiful things. So like, obviously, social media is full of like beautiful women that have like 1 million followers, right?
Sure.
But I think it's so fascinating because if you go to these accounts that have just a million followers and it's just someone putting these gorgeous photos up all the time, if you go to the comments, there's nothing of substance. There's no conversation happening. So people love to see beauty. People don't interact with beauty.
Interesting, yeah.
So,
I can see that.
Yeah. And so there's got to be something that people can grab onto and engage with. It can't just be beauty for the sake of beauty. And especially with AI happening now it almost feels like almost like we're almost inundated by beautiful things, and so in order for us to feel like something is real, there has to be flaws in it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think my style of content is almost a reaction to that. Like, I'm not trying to overproduce my stuff because I think it's almost easier now for people to overproduce, and there's something that feels a lot more human. Yeah. So I mean, like, you can see a photo of a beautiful house and people will be like, that's nice. It's a beautiful house. But if the conversation is like, actually, like, this house looks nice, but let me tell you the 4 design flaws in this room, then it's a lot more engaging. I just don't think I think humans distrust perfection. When we zoom out and we talk about content, people are picking up on that too. So if it's off, if it's too perfect, if it's, if it doesn't feel human enough, people will pick up on that.
That if there was a firm that had the brevity to show the vulnerability of our profession, meaning it might look something like this, where we do a lot of job site visits, right? And construction process is not simple, and it's complicated, and things go wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And if we could show, like, okay, these trees don't meet our specifications and we have to return them, and that's a very difficult conversation with the contractor.
Yeah.
And then we get new ones in, or these pavers are wrong, or the orientation is this, or, if you're even really brave, like if your drawings were a little bit off and now the contractor has to adjust and it's your fault, that would be really brave, because our field never wants to show any kind of imperfections. Yeah. But I do feel if anyone was willing to step into that role and show that, I think it would be amazing. And I do honestly think that it would lead to sales and people wanting to work with a company.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think look at, I think it's Wendy's on Twitter. They have such
They're
a killer,
crushing it.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to see a business not take itself so seriously. So even though landscape architecture can be like a serious thing, and you can be very good at your job and you can be very professional in those ways, you don't have to take everything so seriously, though. And you can make fun of yourself. One of the things that I feel like has helped me be successful in my in social media for my real estate is that I was like, well, what do I hate about the real estate industry? And the thing that I hate the most is this toxic positivity, where people walk in and they're like, oh, your dreams will come true. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I actually don't know anything about you. I don't know what your dreams are.
Yeah.
And so I can't step into this and say, your dreams are going to come true.
Right.
I don't know your dreams. And so we can take things a little less seriously and still be good at our jobs.
That toxic positivity is really bad. And
yeah.
I get why you would do that, right? Because you want to I see the inclination to do that. But then at a certain point we have to realize, and we are, you are proof that we are realizing, look, we could definitely highlight all the beautiful things and we could talk about that. But at the same time, let's be quote unquote real a little bit. And when I watch some of your reels, some of them hurt me because I'm like, you are actually, you hit something in me. And then I'm like, oh, but I like it, right? Yeah. It's like, I want to buy this house. I don't want to buy your house. I have no interest. I'm like, I have a beautiful home already, right? But there's something about striking that chord of who we are as a person. And then I can't bring up a specific example, but there will be something this kitchen will fill the void.
When you buy this house, people will stop assuming you're the kind of person whose password is password. Imagine the number of Nicolas Cage DVDs you'll be able to rip through in this theater room. This sauna will be the perfect place for you to celebrate the impermanent nature of the human form as you sweat in crevices you didn't know you had. With a view this good, your neighbors won't even question your binoculars. This home has 5 bedrooms, which will be perfect for you now that you've decided to stay together for the kids despite hating each other, because somehow you've reasoned that the best way to teach your kids how to have a happy life and healthy relationships is by modeling the exact opposite. And there's a pot filler.
And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I do want to buy a kitchen for that. Like I have a Mercedes because I want a Mercedes because I want a little bit of that clout.
Yes.
Right? It's superficial. I know it. I get it. But when somebody can see that, it feels a little bit refreshing. It's like, okay, you see it. I'm still going to get it because I like it and I enjoy it. But it's like you see me.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing that's really fun is that you don't actually have to connect with every single thing I say. Like it doesn't have to be a personal attack on every and you still think it's like funny. So, I'll make more niche, like specific jokes that I don't expect everybody to connect to. One of them was about Marvel bobbleheads on your wall.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to see the comments and see which things people pull out from it.
Oh, right.
Because I'm giving them this, like, I'm kind of giving them a little a buffet of which thing they want to be offended by.
Do you ever get surprised?
Yes.
What surprises you?
Sometimes I'm just like, this is the meanest one.
Yeah.
And then people will, because I organize it usually in the way of like, I think this one's my heavy hitter, so I'm going to have that here. And then my kind of mid one, the one that I think is kind of the tamest, I'll put in the middle. Sure. And sometimes the tame ones, the ones I think are tame, are people are like, oh, you had to ruin my day like that. And,
And you are active in the comments, which is pretty funny.
It's fun.
Yeah. Like, do you just like, I don't know, what do you like at home eating bonbons, just like...
sometimes when I post, I will leave it alone for a couple hours and then I come back and I say, okay, what do I get to reap in here?
Yeah.
Because I've already sown it. And no, it's really fun. Like this morning I posted one and someone said something about like how I ruined their day. And I was like, ruining your day makes my day. So
perfect.
Amazing.
I love it.
So I do think, and that's another way that people can get to know me is like down in the comments. So, cause there are real discussions happening. Yeah. I think it, I don't know, it makes everybody feel like we're just like a little community. We're all just laughing at the world. We're all, we all have these dark thoughts, and, I think people like being called out, obviously.
Sure. But you've also had some weird guys like reach out to you, right?
So,
I
am a woman on the internet.
Sure.
So yes, I do get,
And how do you handle that?
Most of the time I just block them.
Yeah, right away, like just.
I mean, because. Oh, okay, so let's say hypothetically, let's say a man that has a $4 million home budget comes into my comments and he drops some lewd stuff, or some misogynistic stuff, and I block them. And I could have made such a he was a potential client. I could have made so much money on him. But then would I actually want to work with him?
Right, that's icky.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I don't feel any sort of weirdness about like. I'm not trying to, it goes back again. Like I want to work with the people that I want to work with and I don't care what your budget is if you're.
Wow, I love that. Again, that's where I'm coming to now in my life as well. You're like way ahead of me. So I appreciate that you're like choosing your clients is very important to me right now. And the more that I do that, I find the better the clients that I have.
Yes.
And I believe in manifesting. Not ashamed to say it, but like
there's like real neuroscience that backs that up, by the way.
Okay, good. And I'll say like, look, I want clients that like I'll write it down and I'll do like a little manifesting thing and I'll say, I want clients that appreciate who I am, like applaud my work, pay on time. Yeah. That's a big thing for photographers. All this stuff. And then like a week later, I got a client, paid on time, appreciated me, did all this stuff, and it's like I've been generally lucky having great clients. Yeah. But just reinforcing it and doing it more, it really does matter.
It changes a lot. Well, because like when clients come to me, I'm already they already know what they're getting into, so I don't have to sit there and I don't have to test the waters of like what's appropriate, like where's the threshold, how many jokes can I make, because they're already in for it. And so it makes my work actually just like so much more fun because I'm attracting the kind of people that do appreciate the way that I'm going to approach things, and they give me kind of a longer leash to be kind of creative, and So I really appreciate that. And my clients have been really fun.
You know what else I just thought of is that, for anyone who hasn't worked with a real estate agent, I will say that it is a relationship for a while.
100%.
And I'm hanging out with you and I'm walking homes with you. And like, it would be nice if we like each other. And eventually, like, you grab lunch together because you've been walking around all day. So you kind of develop like this quasi, friendship / acquaintance thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we do become friends. Like our real estate agent now is like, we hang out all the time.
Yeah.
Like she comes over and like we do all this stuff. And so it's like, who do you want to spend time with?
Yeah.
Like, and that's like really important.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and then it also like, it helps me be able to, like, because we already have this built-in rapport. So it doesn't feel like I'm crossing any boundaries when I'm like, okay, let's be honest with yourself. Like, you're saying two things that are contradictory. Let's figure out which one you really want, which thing is your priority. And then I don't feel bad when I'm like, well.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure that you see this in landscape architecture as well. Sometimes clients don't know what they want.
That's the worst.
And so they'll be like, oh, I like this kitchen. I'll be like, why?
Yes.
What is it about this kitchen that speaks to you? And so I think in a lot of any client-based industry, you have to be able to push the client to get at their underlying motivations, like to figure out what it is that they truly value, so that then you can, because really if they like the counter space in the kitchen, what is that counter space actually symbolizing to them? It's symbolizing this ability to, I don't know, maybe like have enough space to cook because cooking helps them feel connected to their family, or things like that. It sounds so hokey, but it's true.
It's not hokey.
Yeah, that it's so important to get at like what this thing actually means to you.
Right.
Instead of being focused on like, oh, we need a place with a lot of counter space.
Well, there's a balance to that as well. It's like, one, yes, you 100% have to understand the psyche of the person and what motivates them and what they really like, why they like it, all of that. That is so important to design well. At the same time, there's a certain handoff point where you're like, okay, now that I understand you, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
As a realtor, you are guiding people into possibly one of the largest financial decisions that they will ever make in their life. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of responsibility.
Yes.
How do you balance between doing your job and wanting a commission and going to sleep at night comfortably knowing that like you help them make the right decision?
Oh, you absolutely have to prioritize the going to sleep at night. Commission is secondary, right? Because I believe that if I'm always doing my best to do right by my clients, like I'm not a fortune teller, right? I can't tell if the house that you're going to move into is going to, have a pipe burst and it's going to ruin your life. I don't know. But I will do my very best to help you make the right decision to get into the house that best suits your needs.
So can you tell them like, hey, no, this isn't the right house for you at times?
I told one of my clients the other day not to put an offer in on a house.
Even though they wanted to?
They said, I'm ready to make an offer. And I said, are you?
Yeah.
And it comes back down to that like values conversation of like, what is it that you really value? And I don't think that this is the right move for you, but if this is still the thing that you want to do, here's how the potential scenario would play out. Right. Here's the kind of stress we're going to put on ourselves. Here's the difficulty. So yeah, because if you're always doing right by your clients, then you will have more clients and they will come back to you. And so trying to just make a commission, I think is so short-sighted, which kind of surprised me.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. It is nice. I have had people be like, this is so unprofessional. Like, you're devaluing the industry. Blah,
really?
Blah, blah. Yeah.
But that doesn't bother. Like that's
no,
not
at all.
Right?
There's this big name in the industry. His name's Tom Ferry. He's like a real estate coach, and I had someone in some comments talk about like how all the big industry gurus like Tom Ferry just talk about how my style is really ruining the industry and you shouldn't go down that path. And so I kind of, most of the time I just leave hate comments alone, but I made a video in response to this particular comment because at the time that this person commented, I had just spoken to Tom Ferry, and he invited me out to Orlando to come film a podcast with him.
Right.
And so I kind of made like a little sarcastic clapback video of like, I'm not sure who told you that people aren't liking my style, but I'll ask Tom on Monday when he interviews me.
Awesome.
And it was so I do get haters, and I just don't really care, because they can say this is awful, this is unprofessional, but I'm like, I'm sorry, but 90,000 people are here having fun. And so there's something here.
This living space is the opposite of your dad's mind because it's open. This mezzanine level flex space is a nice spot for you to sit down and calculate how much of your adult money you're spending on Lego. This gourmet kitchen has plenty of storage options for your preferred SSRI. This window seat is a cozy spot for you to entertain ruminations about your married coworker. This unique rooftop deck has plenty of space for you to add your ice bath equipment so that you can make your entire personality about cold plunging, even though the scientific evidence supporting its efficacy is pretty spotty, because even if it's just placebo, it feels good to believe in something. And the liquor store's right there.
Let's talk about your extended foot stance.
Yeah, okay. We can do that.
This is, you like that? This is how I envision that. I see a line drawing of that as a silhouette and merch. Like I would buy that.
Yeah.
And just like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like,
which is so funny because, okay, this
like
idea,
you need merch,
this
honestly.
idea of merch for a real estate agent is absolutely unhinged.
Caitlin, you are in a different era now,
That's
and
crazy.
the people would buy it.
That's crazy. Well, because like, I was posting videos of my most recent listing where my sign post in the yard, I have a rider at the bottom. The rider is like the skinny little sign underneath. And it says, if this house doesn't save your marriage, nothing will.
No, you do not.
I do.
Yeah. No, you do not.
I do. Thank you.
That is amazing.
And so I posted it, and everybody was like, this is so funny. And I was like, bitch, you haven't even seen my candles yet.
Right.
Because I grabbed a handful of candles from Walmart one time, and I printed out my own little label. And so the flavor is coconut and discontent.
Yes.
And it has my face on it. And I was like, you guys haven't even seen my candles yet. And then I got so many DMs of like, where can I buy this? I'm like, you can't, hypothetically, let's say you're a person that buys a coconut and discontent candle. Yes. And it's out, the candle is black, by the way, obviously.
Of course. Has to be.
And someone comes by and says, oh, that's so cool. Where'd you get that candle? And you're like, oh, my favorite real estate agent sells them. But there is like value to that, right?
Yeah.
People want to feel connected in these parasocial relationships.
Or what is that, nihilistic optimism?
Nihilistic optimism?
See, there's another shirt right there for you.
Someone else said, you're so dark, you're light.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. But also, like, I hope the audience, my demographic really takes home that I sincerely think us as an industry really needs to look at alternative ways of telling our story.
Yeah.
Right? And whatever style that is, whatever niche it is, whatever vulnerabilities, or something needs a little bit of a mix-up.
Yeah, well, and I think it's really hard because you have to be willing to like bust your own chops a little bit.
Yeah.
And like break yourself down and study yourself a little bit and be like, how can I speak really authentically about this thing?
Yeah.
And you have to have like a little bit not to lose. Just like, and people call it bravery, and I don't think that it's bravery. I think it's, I just think it's like I'm really honest with myself about like, if this doesn't go well, I actually don't care. Right. I've separated my own self-worth away from it enough that if something doesn't work out, then I'm like, that's fascinating. Why didn't it? Instead of being like, I'm a failure. Right. And so, I mean, if you want to go through a really grisly divorce in order to get to that point, that's, that was a big catalyst for me, is because you get just like stripped down to the bones in really rough situations like that. So, so then it in some ways like that divorce was, and the things leading up to it, really forced me to look at myself. And so then I feel like it's such a strength of mine now. And so I think that's what people get from it. They're like, well, why do you have this presence? Like, why are you so confident? Why are you so sure? And I'm like, oh, actually, because my life already tried, like I hit the rock bottom and I'm not there anymore. And so I already know that I survived.
A little bit of like, I don't give a fuck.
I really don't.
Yeah. And like, how do you get there? You are like, I didn't even know you were based in Salt Lake for the first couple forwards that I gave my real estate agent friends. And then you did a Salt Lake thing. I was like, oh, that's even better. Like now, and so I'm finding like cooler people here, and I'm building my own network.
Yeah, I've gotten that response a lot of like, they make people like you in Utah.
Actually, if you know about Utah, you are like the perfect, like, meaning like you can come out of Utah from the whole LDS thing and from the whole like...
Yes, here's the thing, that I am, in a lot of ways, pretty quintessential to Utah because I grew up Mormon.
Yeah.
And my entire family, very devout. It means so much to them. My mom was in the Mormon Tabernacle Choir my entire childhood. My dad was a bishop, the whole thing. And then I got married at 19 and I had 4 children and I was, in a marriage, that wasn't right. Because when you're 19, your prefrontal cortex is not fully present,
not.
So I did all these things based on trying to be a good person and what I thought a good person was, right? And then I have this moment in my 20s when I'm like, no, this is all wrong. And so I am no longer Mormon. And, I still have the 4 kids. Those are still around, but I don't have the marriage anymore. And there are so many people in Utah that grew up being told, being given a framework for what life is. And there are so many of us that have taken the time, made the effort to completely deconstruct that.
Yes, yeah. It's very interesting because so many, my wife and I, we like to say we're very good transitional friends to people exiting the Mormon church because we pray and we're religious. Mm-hmm. We're not LDS. And we're like a safe zone because like we're kind of cool, but we're like very empathetic to that transition, right? So we have a lot of people that kind of latch onto us because they kind of feel that vibe of like, this is a safe way to, as we're transitioning out. Now we also have friends that are fully devout Mormons. We love them. We care about them. But the ones that are like transitioning out, like we're a very safe like place for them, which is interesting because I've witnessed so much of that transition that I empathize with how hard that is, that whole identity. And are you really going to hell forever? Like, that's a big mind.
Yeah. So okay. And the thing that I don't think that on the outside, if you don't know a lot about Mormonism, if you haven't spent a lot of time around it, you just think, oh, like it's another religion. But it's quite demanding. Okay. So every decision you make, every facet of your life is centered around this thing. So when you question it or when you deconstruct it, it truly is like ripping out your roots of your identity and who you are and how you view the world and having like you have nothing and you have to completely rebuild yourself.
And you're breaking your mom's heart.
Well, okay, so let me tell
you.
I mean, that's one thing that I was really stressed about when I was like, this, I knew very strongly, like, this is not my life. Like, I cannot be Mormon, and there was a period where I was like, I think I can go along with it because it's less painful to go along with it. And then there was a moment where it was more painful to kind of being authentic than it was to. Yeah. But I was really scared about telling my parents. In a way, it felt like I'm coming out to my parents.
In a way, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people have horror stories of like completely losing their families or being, estranged from their families because they left the church. And I am a little embarrassed that I feel like I underestimated my family and how wonderful they are because obviously like it does matter to them because to them, I very literally am choosing not to go to heaven. Oh. I'm choosing not to be with the family, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I know. It's incredibly like real to them. So the stakes for them are high, but they have been so wonderful.
Oh,
They've been
good.
so supportive. And, there are moments when my mom or dad will, ask, or we'll be at a family function, there's going to be a family prayer over the food, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Or, my parents will ask me and the kids if we want to attend a service. And I let my kids make that choice for themselves.
Yeah.
But, I sat outside the temple at when my sister got married. And because I decided, one thing I didn't like about the church was how I felt like it did separate families.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm never going to let the church be, I'm going to go to baptisms. I'm going to go to weddings, to the extent that I can, because I am not going to let the church separate family further.
Yeah.
Here's
one of the things that I love about Utah, and that is that for me, praying before I eat is very important. I don't know why, but just something about that is very important to me and my family. And in LA, when I would we'd be in and out, and I'm like, I want to pray before I eat. And sometimes I would get weird looks, or people would make a little comment, or they see all my tattoos and they're like, oh, that's really weird that you would do that, and and because
obviously tattoos mean that you're completely godless. Yes,
absolutely. And so it felt like something I just have to endure.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not going to stop this. I don't like having to answer all these questions. And let's say I'm hanging out with you right now.
No.
You just be like, go ahead, do your thing.
Because I lived a life where I was incredibly devoted and devout to something.
And so you could be like, and I'm not going to presume what your stance is on that right now, but it would be like, oh, do your thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you pray or not. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's like that shift, because there's so much religion draped over this whole entire city, that wherever I go, in and out or whatever, and if I pray, nobody cares how I grew up, right?
Well, yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty crazy.
I think, especially people that are ex-Mormon, like myself, we have lived so many versions of our life, right? And so that, like you said, it doesn't, whether you do or do not, I do not care, because I, at different points in my life, would have done or would not have, And so I think we have so much sympathy for, maybe sympathy is the wrong word, but we just have so much understanding of you do the best thing that you can in whatever moment that you're in.
Here's one thing that I want to share about the LDS community that I really love. Because so many people go on missions, and so many people have gone to Africa, New Zealand, Samoa, all these different places. They go for 2 years, they come back. You can't help but have somewhat of a more worldly view, right? And so when I talk with a lot of people, it seems like there's this more of a worldly view than other places that I visited, where it's just a community where nobody has ever left the town. Yeah. And so I would say when people come out here that there's a more worldly of an ideology than you think.
Yeah.
Then that's my plug to be like, hey, you're okay.
Yeah. There's a funny thing though, because I work with a lot of people that are moving to Utah, or they didn't grow up in Utah.
Oh, and you have to kind of answer all those questions.
And sometimes people will want me to give them the down low on is this a really Mormon neighborhood? And I can't talk about that actually.
Through a real estate ethics, or
because of fair housing laws, because
absolutely,
religion is one of the protected classes in fair housing laws. And I definitely agree with fair housing laws, that they should be in place, because it used to be a thing where people would say
redlining and all kinds of stuff.
Yes, this neighborhood is full of crime, which just meant brown people. So I definitely believe that fair housing, we should have these rules. But yeah, I can't tell you if this particular neighborhood has a lot of and I don't know what the answer is that you want anyway. Right. But so in general,
if they're asking that, it's probably they want to not, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, you can't assume that. Yeah.
So, but I in general, Salt Lake is kind of a blue dot in a red state, and you can take that however you'd like to.
Here's something very interesting that I want to share. So I worked at a landscape architecture firm here when I first moved here. I was on the team helping design the Ephraim temple. And I'm not LDS at all.
Yeah.
You know, I have lots of tattoos and like it's pretty obvious that I'm not. And so we had a Zoom meeting with the architects, the structural engineer, all the consultants, basically, interior designers. And if people don't know, there's a difference between a church and a temple. So a church is just like a typical church that you would kind of envision.
Yeah, just a place of worship.
Just a place of worship. And a temple is like the temple. It's like grand, and there's like the material selection. As a landscape architect and an architect, designing a temple is fascinating because there's like a big budget, and there's lights, and there's materials, and it's kind of like all out design, right? So I really enjoyed it. But the point that I wanted to get was that before a Zoom meeting, they said, can we do, or we're going to do a prayer. Are you okay with it? And I'm cool with it, right? Because I already talked about, like, I love praying and the whole stuff. And I was like, absolutely, I would love that. And I made it really clear, like, yes, I'm cool with it. And then before a Zoom meeting, we led a prayer, and I was cool with it. And we did that. And, you know, they were like, thank you, God, for bringing us together. And like, we did the thing, and then then we started our Zoom meeting. But in my mind, at the same time, my mind was blown because I couldn't imagine being in LA and having all these consultants and then asking to do a prayer before. It would not fly.
Yeah. Somebody
Somebody would file a complaint. There'd be probably a lawsuit or whatever. And it was like, yo. And again, we're like,
That's
I'm
so
not,
funny.
I just want to also say, like, this is not typical design firm behavior in Salt Lake. It was because we were designing a temple.
Right.
So it was a little bit
it's the
specialized.
client, yes.
Sure. But wow.
Yeah.
Like, that was crazy and cool at the same time for me.
Yeah.
Like, so.
That's, I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
Right.
None of it.
I think the silhouette of your foot stance.
We didn't talk about the foot stand. Okay.
Tell me about your foot stance.
We can
let's wrap it up with the foot
because
stance.
I have a short tripod, and so I have good mobility, and so when I started filming, I was
Yeah.
like, this is kind of funny. I'll just pop down, like, so I can be in the frame and you can see it.
Yeah.
And then it became a thing.
It is a thing.
It became a signature thing.
Yeah.
And I really do have great mobility.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds like you're
my
proud of
ankle
that. You should
flexion. But the funny thing is, people think that I'm tall, and I think it's because my leg. I do outstretch my leg a lot, and so people are like, they get this idea that I'm tall, and I'm
You're not
I'm
tall.
5'1".
Oh.
I'm 5'1".
Wow,
See?
I thought you were. Wow.
Well, I'm wearing heels today.
Oh, okay,
But
alright.
I'm 5'1".
Yeah.
So I'm
my
not
wife's
tall.
5'1", so yeah. Okay.
So people like assume that I'm like 5'8", and then, so I get the thing when people see me in public.
Well, there's also, like, you know, big personality just assumes, like, you're taller, and
That's
so
true.
maybe there's part of that too as
Maybe.
well. Not to take away from your mobility or your
no,
foot stance.
no, it's okay.
But I see it. It's a silhouette line work of that on a shirt or on a hoodie or a handbag or whatever, and I think you're gonna crush it. And I think you might end up making more money doing that than all your other stuff, which would be totally rad. But you got to kick me down like one or two items for sure.
Yeah. We can work that out.
You're awesome. All right. That's it.
Thanks.
All right.